In this video, as you can see, the picture that is displayed before you is of Christopher Marlowe. We are going to talk about in detail about Christopher Marlowe's personal life, his contribution to the work of literature, and especially to the era of Elizabethan drama. So he is the first, you could say, literary genius of the age, and we can see him as to be a true representation of the age of Renaissance. In his, you could say, uh, works, you could easily find the spirit of Renaissance that is very much applicable, and that is very much, you could say, easily found as well. So he was born on in 1564. That is almost 2 or 3 years before birth of Shakespeare. But he died at a very young age of 29 in an accident that we'll also talk about because of his uh, temper, and he led a kind of, you could say, controversial life. He was the second and eldest son of John Marlowe, a Canterbury shoemaker. That also shows that he was a kind of self-made person with passion, extreme passion, and extreme enthusiasm to achieve something great. Coming from a very humble background and proving himself to be a national writer, going to the university and achieving high education are the characteristics that Christopher Marlowe displays through his character, through his personality. Over there, we can see that also uh, he was in a kind of dispute as well with the university because of his rebellious attitude. So you could read all the detail about his personal life from Encyclopedia Britannica, and also detail has been given by B.R. Mull, William J. Long, and many other writers. So the dramatic work of Lodge and Nash is not of much importance, as we already know that those among literary genius of university wits, the most prominent figure is of Christopher Marlowe. Of all the members of the group, Marlowe is the greatest. In 1587, his play Tamburlaine was produced, and it took to public by storm on account of its impetuous force, its splendid command of blank verse, and its sensitiveness to beauty. So we'll talk about all of his plays. Tamburlaine is the first one. In this play, Marlowe dramatized the exploits of Scythian shepherd who rose to be the terror of the world, the scourge of God. Tamburlaine was succeeded by the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. Tamburlaine is known to be, as you could say, the work that is based on Temur Lung, and Marlowe in this particular play documents the spirit of Renaissance and the glory of Elizabethan drama. As you could see, Marlowe in that writes, nature that framed us of four elements, warring within our beast for regiment, doth teach us all have aspiring minds, our souls, whose faculties can comprehend the wondrous architecture of the world, and measure every wandering planet's course, still climbing after knowledge infinite, and always moving as the restless spheres will us to wear ourselves and never rest. Tambulan. So you see the elements that are there, like our breast for regiment doth teach us all to have aspiring minds. So mind idea यकी मोहकम amal पे हम मोहब्बत फातह आलम. So yakeen, that mind, having aspiring mind, then our souls to have such ability and capability to comprehend that, and then having what? Lust for wonder, achieving the greatest aims of going to farthest destinations, the wondrous architecture of the world, going and exploring the world, exploring the horizons of the world, and measure every wandering planet's course, and then going from place to place and seeing the beauty, not only the beauty, but also conquering the beauty, conquering those plains, conquering those fields, still climbing after knowledge infinite, and getting knowledge about the cultures, about societies, about people, about, like, again I would go back to the quote by Julius Caesar, if you remember, Vinay Visay. What does that mean? Perhaps you're familiar with the concept. I went, I saw, I conquered. So that conquering spirit is found in Tambulan, and always moving as the restless sphere. So as spheres can't rest, similar a warrior cannot rest, and then wearing himself and never resting, as going for achievement of, you could say, all those passions, so that he could be the master of the world, the master of his own universe. So you could see that Christopher Marlowe's soul was surging with ideals of Renaissance, which later found expression in Faustus too, the scholar longing for unlimited knowledge and the power to grasp the universe. Then you could see that uh, the problem with Marlowe was that he had unbridled, uncontrolled passion, which marked the early and the pagan Renaissance, Einstein's call it, and the conceit of a young man just entering the realm of knowledge. He became an actor and lived in a low tavern atmosphere of excess and wretchedness. Then, when he publishes his work, and his work is rather produced in theater in 1587, when he was just 23 years old. Look at, just 23 years old and creating such a mighty work, which is full of passion, which is full of, you could say, passion and love. Oh, uncontrollable ecstasy of Renaissance. Thereafter, notwithstanding his wretched life, he holds steadily to a high literary purpose, though all his plays about and violence. So there is violence in plays, no doubt. There is killing, there are murders, there are fights, reflecting many of the violent scenes in which he lived. That also reflects his own life too. He developed his mighty line and depicts great scenes in magnificent bursts of poetry, such as the stage had never heard before. In 5 years, while Shakespeare was serving his apprenticeship, Marlowe produced all of his great works. So within those 5 years of his youthful passion, he was able to document all those marvelous plays that for whom he is still known, he still remembered, he still praised, and he is the one who paved path for Shakespeare's greatest works too. Then you see he was stabbed in a drunken brawl and died wretchedly, as he had lived. So his death is also not very glorious, as his life was too, because he was drunken over there in a fight he indulged himself in. So in that he lost. Had he lived, he would have created God knows what else, probably more than Shakespeare, more than anyone else in the history, because even in such a young age, below 30, he had already produced some of the greatest works of English literature, of the world literature the world could ever see. And as the epilogue of Faustus might be written across his tombstone, cut is the branch that might have grown full straight and burned in is Apollo's laurel's bough that sometime grew within his learned man. So within this learned man, Apollo's passion. Who is Apollo, by the way? I hope you have some idea. If not, let's go to Encyclopedia Britannica and read something about Apollo. Apollo is what? In Greek religion, a deity of manifold function and meaning after Zeus. So Apollo is a god, son of God, after Zeus, the most widely revered and influential of all Greek gods, though his original nature is obscure from the time of Homer onward. He was the god of divine distance who sent or threatened from afar, the god who made men aware of their own guilt and purified them of it, who presided over religious law and constitution of cities, who communicated with mortals through prophets and oracles his knowledge of the future and will of his father Zeus. So you see that he embodies all the control over the world. According to Greek philosophy and Greek mythology, you see these god and goddesses are the ones who control this world in their pagan ideology, when they believe that these are the ones from whom all the other gods feared, because only his father and mother Leto could easily endure his presence. So you see wrath, passion, distance, death, terror, and awe were summed up in his symbolic vows. A gentle side of his nature, however, was shown in his other attribute, the lyre, which proclaimed the joy of communion with Olympus, the home of the gods, through music, poetry, dance. So there he has another side, which is what a kind of happy-go-lucky, Rangila sort of side. Humbler circles, he was also the god of crops, herds, primarily a divine bulwark against wild animals, a disease. So you could see he is the god having multiple, you could say, capabilities in his personality. So you could read detail about when you want to read about him, and you could read something about Zeus too, and perhaps when you will read your classical drama, starting from Oedipus Rex and Aristotle's definition of tragedy and his poetics, your teacher would introduce you to various Greek gods and goddesses and the myths that are associated with these Greek religious figures. So I would recommend that while these days you have some time, so you should watch at least that some of the movies related on, such as Troy is based on Hercules, and similarly other ones, Clash of Titans. So not only you should read some movies, but also you should watch some movies, but also you should read some brief account of these Greek gods and goddesses and Greek mythologies about these religious figures, because all your ancient drama or Greek drama is perhaps based upon the contribution that is made by these Greek gods and goddesses over there. So let's read a brief paragraph about Zeus too. In ancient Greek religious chief deity of Pantheon, a sky and weather god, was identical with the Roman god Jupiter. His name clearly comes from that of the sky god Dais and the ancient Hindu Rigveda. So Hindu mythology also believes in these gods and goddesses, and that is also one of the ancient form of the religion, and they have this, you could say, similar structure. So Zeus was regarded as the center of the thunder, lightning, rain, winds, and his traditional weapon was thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, his traditional weapon, and he was called Father, the ruler, the protector of both gods and men. So you could see that Christopher Marlowe talks in detail about these Greek gods as well. So you see, burned is Apollo's laurel's bough that sometime grew within this learned man. So this learned man had flame of Apollo. Let's focus on some of the works of Christopher Marlowe. In addition to the poem Hero and Leander, to which we have referred, Marlowe is famous for four dramas, to be specific. Now we known as Marlowesque, or one-man type of tragedy. One-man type of tragedy where you see one particular hero, his life, his personality, his actions, his dealings, and each revolving about one central personality who is consumed by the lust of power. So the passion, lust of power that you see, one of such particular trait of Renaissance, as you would have seen in through the personality of various characters that are associated with this age of Renaissance. Christopher Columbus, Queen Elizabeth, Christopher Marlowe. So these men had what extreme passion. They had lust for power, and they revolve or walk around the philosophy of, you could say, Machiavelli. In his book named Princess, so he talks about what rules of dictatorship and rules of controlling the world, and where he has one simple formula: there is no good, there is no bad, and justifies the mean. End is everything. You have to achieve your end, you have to achieve your target. No means by what process. There is no goodness, there is no bad factor involved in anything but the end. Ending your reaching destination through lust, through extreme passion, through all those whatever you can do in the world. So the first of these, Tamburlaine, the story of Temur. Temur the Tatari king he was. Temur begins as a shepherd chief who first rebels and then triumphs over the Persian king, intoxicated by his success. So you see that similar passion starting from very, you could say, humble background and achieving maximum was one particular trait that is associated with Christopher Marlowe. Similar is the idea that Marlowe gives, or you could say, circulates through the story of Temur and this drama. So you see, Temur rushes like a tempest over the whole East, scourge of God, seated on his chariot drawn by captive kings. With a caged emperor before him, he boasts of his power, which overrides all things. So, if you just keep in your, you go to that Chalice poem. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look at my deed, ye mighty in despair. You could also compare that kind of, you could say, subjugating kings, asking them to kneel before him. Then, afflicted with disease, he raves against the gods and would overthrow them as he has overthrown earthly rulers. सो सितारों से आगे जहां और भी हैं अभी इश्क के इम्तिहान और भी हैं सो यू सी मेरी अगली नजर सितारों पर फिर so the next destination is going extreme, going to the high. Tamburlaine is an epic rather than a drama, but one can understand its instant success with a people only half civilized, fond of military glory, and the instant adoption of its mighty line as instrument of all dramatic expression. So we can see that how Tamburlaine represents his own spirit, his own passion, Marlowe's work. We'll talk about in detail about Dr. Faustus and his resemblance to Christopher Marlowe in the next video. But before going to that, let's go to his third play, The Jew of Malta, a study of the lust of wealth which centers about Barbaros, a terrible old moneylender strongly suggestive of Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. One Pound Flesh, Merchant of Venice, you could say. Merchant of Venus is one of the you could say outstanding works of Shakespeare, in which he talks about these business-oriented people over there. He documents that how lust centers around in business, as you can resemble the in COVID-19, that how these businessmen, mask sellers, sanitizer sellers, they just yes, they have what added fuel to the prices of these goods that are being sold, and that used to be sold at a very cheap rate before this arrival of COVID-19, the curse. But now you see, even they are near their death But even then, these people, they have no fear, they have no mercy, they have no, you could say, feelings for the poor, for the people who could die because of holding all these. So this is what very common sort of philosophy among these business oriented people who care nothing but their own profit. The first part of the play is well constructed, showing a decided advance, but the last part is an accumulation of melodramatic horrors. Melodrama is a kind of sentimental sort of drama where sentiments are aroused and the passion is given, you could say, height, and then Barbara then is checked in his murderous career by falling into boiling cauldron which he had prepared for another, and like dying in his own trap, and dies blaspheming his own only regret being that he has not done more evil in his life. So you see that not doing more evil is a kind of repentance. So Marlowe's last play is Edward too, a tragic study of King's weakness and misery. In point of style and dramatic construction, it is by far the best of the Marlowe's play and is worthy predecessor of the Shakespeare's historical drama. And some say that Shakespeare collaborated in this particular drama with Marlowe so that they could achieve excellence. Marlowe is the only dramatist of the time who is ever compared with Shakespeare, because nobody else was equal to the caliber that Shakespeare achieved. And we'll see when we'll read Shakespeare the kind of height, and that is why he is still remembered, he is still read even after many centuries. So when we remember that he died at 29, probably before Shakespeare had produced a single great play, we must wonder what he might have done had he outlived his wretched youth and become a man. Here and there, his work is remarkable for its splendid imagination, the stateliness of its verse, for its rare bits of poetic beauty, but in dramatic instinct, in wide knowledge of human life, in humor, in delineation of women's character, in delicate fancy which presents an Ariel as perfectly as a Macbeth. In a word, Macbeth, uh, uh, to be specific, Shakespeare's work, Ariel, Tempest character, Shakespeare's another character. In all that makes dramatic genius, Shakespeare stands alone. Marlowe simply prepared the way for the master who was to follow. So Marlowe is the announcement of the greatest master, and through his work he is able to shower greatest imagination, and his uniqueness of his verse, its literariness, for the rare bits of poetic beauty, because poetic beauty rose to the height, and the dramatic instinct, because the drama was produced in a perfect sense, and it incorporated all the novelty of the age with the knowledge of human life, human passion, human endeavors, and definitely incorporating all the other aspects of human life. So we have talked generally about Christopher Marlowe in this particular, you could say, video clip, and I hope so you have understood and you have grasped some of the remarkable features of his personality. In the coming next, you could say, clip, we'll talk about Christopher Marlowe, and we'll see that how that work is the work of a of a legendary dramatist. Okay, thank you.